morning. So I need some opinions. Who likes my shirt? Like everyone, right? Matt doesn't, but you know, it's probably not something you see Matt in. Matt, I'm gonna buy you one of these just so you wear it next week and see through it. Yes. My favorite thing. I can't actually. I'll be on vacation, but at some point I will. You'll see Matt in a My Little Pony shirt, and you know who bought it for him. How many of you? What? Do a matching? Yeah, we can do it in tandem.
Wear it on the same day.
That's a great idea. We're gonna have My Little Pony Sunday, where everyone just dresses in their My Little Pony shirts. Does everybody know the song?
What if you don't have
My Little Pony, My Little... That's all I know about it, is that part right there. But it'll be in my head all day. All right, if you don't know me, my name is Andrew, and if you don't know me, it's because I actually go to the Eldersburg Campus, who we're actually taking a break from meeting while we get our building ready, and so we get to come hang out at the Westminster and Hampstead campuses, which is awesome. So Barrick asked me to come hang out with you guys today. I'm super excited. So, real quick, I want to know what, by show of hands, I'll call on you, what is the dumbest thing you've ever done? That's church appropriate. Okay, yes, right here.
I was eating a popsicle and I threw it in the trash and then I wanted another popsicle later and so I took it out of the trash.
Wait, how later was it? Wasn't it like melted? Was it like 5 minutes or like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you changed your mind that fast? You're like, done. You're like, no, I'm not. What is the least acceptable food to do that with, by the way? Is it a popsicle?
Ice cream.
Ice cream? Yeah, that's true. That might be it. Maybe pudding? Like, that'd be nasty. Natalie.
I tried to learn skateboarding by myself. It didn't go very well.
You tried to learn skateboarding by yourself. Wait, why didn't it go well?
I got very bloody knees.
oh, that's painful. You didn't wear knee pads your first time skateboarding?
My parents got a skateboard for me, and I tried to do it down my driveway, which is like
Oh,
this.
no.
And I'm like,
That's never a good thing. Yes?
I ripped my bike off a flatbed.
A flatbed truck? Did it just go like, shoot? Dum?
No, what happened was my friend bet me $20 that I wouldn't do it.
Did you win the money?
Yeah.
Then it was worth it, right?
But I had
Anything
to
for
do
money.
it.
Oh my gosh. Well, it wasn't worth it for your parents. It probably cost them more than 20 bucks.
What happened was I was riding off and there was a little hole at the end. I guess when I hit that hole, my bike went forward. I hit my head on the rock.
Oh, that explains a lot, actually. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, Liam, I'm scared. The last one. Liam.
One time, we had a trampoline, and I jumped from the tree over the trampoline, and I almost broke my back.
Oh my gosh. Why am I not surprised at all, though? That's crazy. So we've all done dumb stuff. That's really hard to say. We've all done dumb stuff. And so I want to share a story about when I did something that was dumb. I was one time with my friend, and we were out on the water, and we were riding jet skis. How many of you have ever seen what a jet ski, or maybe you've ridden one, or you know what one is? Essentially, it's a four-wheeler for the water, right? It doesn't have wheels, but you sit on it like a four-wheeler, and you pull the thing, and it goes. And this thing was awesome. But I'd never ridden one before. And so the guy told me, he's like, all right, all you need to know, this is go forward, this is go back, and then you have your steering wheel. That's it. He's like, that's all you need to know. But he said the most important thing you need to know is when you leave and when you untie it, make sure that the rope is not in the water. Because if the rope is dangling in the water, the engine's going to suck it up, and it's going to stop the engine, and you'll be in trouble. It might ruin the jet ski. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. Forward, backward, control. Most important thing, make sure the rope is not in the water. So we ride this thing around, and it went, I'm not even joking, you have a video, it went like 65 miles an hour on the water, which is awesome. If you've never been 65 miles an hour on the water, do it sometime. It's amazing. So I was out there, we rode this thing around, out of gas, we filled it back up, put it back in the water, and we went on our way. Well, later on in the day, we were standing in the grass looking out at the water, and we noticed that we had left a crab trap out in the water. If you know what that is, it's literally a piece of styrofoam, and at the very bottom is a cage, and you pull it up, and it might have a crab in it, it might not. So we left one out in the water, and we're like, oh, we should go get that. We shouldn't leave that there all night. The salt water will mess it up and everything. So we jump on the jet ski. I'm like, jump on the back, I'll get on the front. It was a two-person jet ski, and we ride out there to get the trap. We go up to it, and I maneuver so well because by now I'm an expert. You know, it's my first day on the thing. So I maneuver really well. Ryan reaches, he grabs the crab trap, pulls it up, puts it in. I'm like, you ready? He's like, I'm ready. And I gun it because we're having fun. And I gun it, turn, and when I look back, I realize that when I turned, the rope had fallen into the water, which was the one thing that I wasn't supposed to let happen. And as I looked, I was like, oh no, it's going to ruin this thing. And so I immediately went to cut the engine. It was one button. All I had to do was push it so it didn't suck up the rope. And I did it, but it wasn't fast enough. And so it sucked up the rope, and I was like trying to start it. It would not start. The rope wouldn't pull up. And I'm like, oh man. So I'm like, maybe I can pull it out. So I swim down underneath, and I kid you not, my feet were like on the bottom of this thing, and I am pulling it, and I'm like, okay, I need more air. Go back up, and I'm like, Ryan, it's like, I have some bad news. I think we're stuck. And we were in the middle of the water, sitting on this thing, and I was like, what should we do? We didn't have phones, because why would we bring our phones? And so we're sitting there, and I'm like, Ryan, the only thing that we can do is swim back to shore with this thing. And so we are there, one hand on this thing, and the other hand just swimming. And if you ever swim, if you've ever swum a word? If you've ever swam, if you've ever swimmed it with one hand, it's not easy. And so we're there, and we are just slowly going back. And it was like half a mile, which is not a bad walk, but it was way too far to swim. And so we're like swimming this thing back. But that wasn't even the worst of it. The worst part was something we found out after we got in the water. And that is that it was jellyfish season. And so we're in the water, and as we're in the water, all these little, they weren't big, but they were these little stupid jellyfish. And they rub your leg and sting you. And so we have stings all over us now. And we're like, dang it, oh my gosh, dang it, oh my gosh. And we're so mad, and we finally get this thing back. And luckily we were able to get the rope out, and it didn't kill the thing. And so I didn't have to pay for it, which would have been good, because that would have sent me into a lot of debt that I couldn't afford. All that to say, right, the most important thing, don't let the rope fall in the water. And we all have moments in our lives where we do dumb stuff, and we all have moments in our lives where someone has probably said to you, hey, if you don't remember anything, at least remember this. Like when your parents leave and they're like, hey, you can do whatever you want, but you have to do this. And they're going to be home in 10 minutes, you still haven't done it, you're like, all right, I got to clean my room. That kind of stuff. We all have moments in our lives like that, and that was that moment for me. Well, I want to look at a passage in the Bible. It's in Matthew 22, and it's that kind of moment. It's one of these moments that Jesus says something that is so important that we can't forget. He's like, if you don't get anything else I'm saying, you at least have to get this. And so, I'll say the same thing to you guys. If you don't get anything else out of C3 for the rest of your lives, I hope that's not true. I hope you listen to everything Barrick says, and Laurel says, and everyone else says. But, if you don't get anything else out of C3 for the rest of your lives, I want you guys to remember this. Okay? So this is this moment. Jesus says in Matthew 22, we're going to look at verse 35. He says this, one of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't try and test Jesus, right? I don't know what he thought he was going to accomplish, what question he thought he was going to come up with, but I wouldn't try and test Jesus. And this guy was a Pharisee, he was a teacher, he was one of the guys that was constantly going against Jesus, and he's like, I'm going to get him. Watch this, I'm going to get him. And he says he tested him with one of these questions, and he said, teacher, what is the greatest command in all the law? Now, if you don't know what the law is, it's the 10 Commandments, right? Everything that Moses wrote. And he's like, God, out of all the commands, and they had made a bunch up too, but he's like, out of all this stuff that you've given us, out of everything, Jesus, what do you think is the greatest command in all of the law? In all of the Old Testament, what's the greatest? And Jesus replies with this. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. He says this is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Some versions even say the second is equally as important. He says the second is like unto it. He says love your neighbor as yourself. Because all the law and the prophets hang on these two commands. Jesus says, listen, if you don't get anything else, the most important command is that we are supposed to love God and that we are supposed to love people. Now, I don't know about you. Maybe you haven't seen this yet. But in some cultures, in some environments, in some churches even, Christianity is kind of labeled as a judgmental group of people. Christianity can even be labeled as people who are just hypocrites, who say one thing but do something else, who say we love, but then we judge people who are different than us. We say we love, and then we don't hang out with people because they might talk different or sound different than us, right? And sometimes Christianity can have this label of, hey, we're going to judge more than we're going to love. And that's sad. That's really sad. Because the truth is that there are truth, and God gave commands. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, right? He gave those commands. But then Jesus said, hey, listen, those are laws, yes. Those are commands, yes. But I want you to get the most important one. And that's that we're supposed to love God, and we're supposed to love people. And as Christians, our job is to lead. Our job is to lead people. And our job is not only to lead people, but it's to lead people with love. It would be really hard for me to be giving this talk, right? To stand up here if you thought that I didn't love you, right? I love each and every one of you. Some of you I just met today. I love each and every one of you. I want you guys to succeed. I want you to do well. I want you to have a great life. And if I was up here and you thought that I didn't love you, you'd probably be like, why would I listen to anything he has to say? Sometimes you may have had teachers, you may have had a coach, you may have had someone in your life that told you to do something, and you're like, I don't want to listen. And when you really think about it, a lot of times it's because you really don't trust that coach. You really don't trust that teacher sometimes. Because you don't know for sure that they actually love you. And when you don't know that someone loves you, you can't really trust that they have your best interests in mind. Right? That's why it's so easy to trust parents. And that's why it's easy to sometimes trust siblings. Not all siblings, right? But it's easy to trust a lot of our siblings because we know at the end of the day they at least love us. And so, I'll say this, and then you guys are going to go into small groups. As Christians, it's our job to love. Not all of us are going to be called to stand up on stage and preach, right? Or preach on this stage. Not all of us are going to be called to stand up and sing or do parking. Whatever it is in the church, not all of us are called to those kind of things. We're all called to very different things, right? Each and every one of us has different gifts, different talents, different abilities, and God's going to use all of those. But there's one thing that we're all called to do, and that's love people. Imagine how your school would be different if you said, you know what? Forget about everyone else. I'm going to focus on me, and I am going to love people. Imagine how your friend group would change. Imagine if you just started loving your friends. And then if those friends went out and they started loving their friends. And they started saying, hey, listen, there's a new kind of love I want to teach you about. And it's the kind of love that Jesus offers. It's the kind of love that Jesus showed me. And what if you shared that love with people? What if you didn't judge them for what they did? What if we didn't say, well, I shouldn't invite them to church because they're not really the church kind of person? What if instead we said, hey, because they're not the church kind of person, that's exactly the kind of person that I need to love. That's exactly the kind of person that I need to invite. And what if we started just loving everyone? What would your school look like? What would your community look like? If it just started at East Middle, if it just started at West Middle, and you're like, we're going to start here, and then we're going to take that to high school, and then we're going to take that to college. And pretty soon, that kind of love becomes infectious, and it spreads. What if that started right here? What if that started right here this morning with each and every one of you? And you said, you know what, I'm not going to be the kind of Christian that's judgmental. I'm going to be the kind of Christian that loves God and loves people. So that's my challenge to you. So I'm going to pray, and then we're going to split up into small groups, and we're going to talk about what that looks like. We're going to talk about how do we lead people with love, and what does that look like on a practical scale. So God, we love you, and we are so thankful to be here this morning and to just be able to learn about you. God, I'm so thankful that you gave us the Bible, and it tells of how we can live like you, God, and how we can just love like you. God, I'm so thankful that you love each and every one of us, even though we do bad things. God, I'm so thankful for your forgiveness and for your grace. And God, I pray right now that as we go into small groups, that you will bless that conversation and help us learn and think of ways that we can share that love with other people. God, we pray this in your name, and all of us said, Amen. Amen. Thank you, guys.